Alright, first of all, the NSA stuff. Now, I don't support that kind of thing. On the other hand, I've lived my whole life knowing they were doing programs like that, and they've been doing them longer than the 7 years that they're talking about. What happened was 7 years ago it became illegal. There's been plenty of leaks and knowledge about, I think it was Eschaton, and, program after program, and clearly ones they don't know. And the way the network works, since nobody encrypts their communications, is the messages go through lots of servers. So, the FBI, NSA, whomever, they could set up an internet service provider and catch a lot of traffic that way. But what happened was this difference of all the ISPs had to cooperate with the government. Now, I don't support that policy, but if it was an open policy, it would be easier to accept. What bothers me is all this covertness in our foreign policy. I mean, there's an argument to say, well, we're going to send someone over to live in China. We can't say who they are. They're just going to keep their eyes open. And I don't mean someone that goes and does assassinations. It's like, we're going to have somebody live in Beijing. What's up? What are people? How do they feel about Americans? Find out. I think you can do that kind of thing in the open, actually. But anyway, that's one kind of program. But this idea that the actual policy, right? Like, they could be taking our data and not telling us what they find and just using it for themselves and still have told us and have a public debate like we're having now. Like what's the dude's name again? Cowden. Like he's saying, the public has to decide. Now, if the public wants to use its infrastructure this way, it's like saying, yeah, we want CHP with radar or not on our roads. Okay. But in this country, we have this idea that we have to do things, but you can't tell the people because they're not into it. And it's not just this one thing. It's like 200 years of foreign policy. Americans have been lied to about their foreign policy day one. I mean, we fought the Indian War. That was full of lies. But then when that was over, the lies got pure. And we, in my generation, I'm 45 at least, was still being taught, oh, we were an isolationist nation. It would, Japan bombed us when it decided to go in the war. The people, the government was never isolationist. We were saying we're all for democracy while we're going out around and running places like the Philippines like plantations. We don't even know our own history because we've been lied to the whole time. I mean, people talk about Americans not knowing their history. Well, it's a young country. But maybe it's because we've been lied to. Anybody that learned the official history that America has told itself the last 150 years has literally zero knowledge about what happened the last 150 years. Zero. People don't know our huge and impactful interventionism in Asia. How as the European empires were kind of settling down, like the expansionist period was over, they were having trouble even holding on to stuff, us saying, well, we want in the game at the last turn. And then we just inherited a bunch of junk. I mean, the Frenchmen screwing up Vietnam, we'll take it. Spanish couldn't hold the Philippines anymore, we'll take it. Lying to the Filipinos about that, yeah, we're going to help you, we're in control. I mean, on and on. And we've been lied about it the whole time. The American people were never told. So as a result, we're this imperialist nation, have been ever since the, I don't know, some number of decades after the Revolutionary War, or at the latest after the whole Indian Wars era. And we didn't know it. We're all like, people should stay to themselves and just live and let live, and, we're isolationists. But your government wasn't. Your taxes weren't. So you're complicit in something that, for 150 years, your culture of common people has had a different attitude, a different story about itself, different desires, and had they been told the foreign policy, probably would have done things about it. The American public probably wouldn't have supported the Philippines if they'd really known what was going on. Maybe they would. We'll never know, because we prefer, Americans actually, this is what disgusts me, prefer for their government to do these evil things. Yeah, you need to do those evil things. Don't tell me, because then I have to be on board with it. That makes me nauseous. Okay, so the other issue is the Zimmerman case. This started up. And I said that I would accept evidence that it's a court case, so we accept evidence. A lot of these pictures and things, if you remember, that I objected to the idea that they were Trayvon, are now in as evidence. The prosecution, already is saying that they're going to challenge. I think they're at least hinting the provenance of some of that, but it doesn't really matter the pictures. But it does look like it could be him. But a couple of the things that came out in the text messages and stuff do matter. Okay, one, he was having trouble. He was going through a trouble period. He had been in some fights. He was talking about it. His mom had kicked him out, according to him, according to his text messages. Said she loved him, but it's better for him to live with his father. He was going through a trouble period, so there is no. Because Zimmerman has tons of stuff in his past that he has trouble with his anger and things like that. So, but it's not just him. On the other hand, Trayvon stayed out of trouble. He had not been arrested. But I do feel like I can say, obviously, was getting in this trouble because they released the school record reports of what was that jewelry. And there was a lot of giant diamond jewelry in there. There was some serious jewelry in there to be carrying around at school. I don't know where I got it. All right. So now that case comes down to what it's supposed to come down to anyway, which is not the overall character in these people's lives, but what happened that night. Now, if you ask me, he's following a guy he thinks is a criminal into the dark, and he has a gun. I think he went in knowing that his out was to kill the other guy if there was a problem. And if not, that should have been the obvious, reasonable assessment of his behavior, and he has to take responsibility for that. It's not how it works in Florida, at least. If Zimmerman went up there and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" and Trayvon just started attacking him, yeah, Zimmerman can possibly get away with that. So